Hi there, thanks for joining us. What makes PTCB kind of unique and special is that we are solely focused on pharmacy technicians. So that's why we asked both of you to join us today so we can have a little talk with a few of our pharmacy technicians on staff. Just a fun get together to talk about your careers as technicians, the work you did before PTCB, and then the work that you're currently doing at PTCB. So let's start with some introductions. Christa, how about you start?
Hi, I'm Christa Clay. I have been a PTCB certified pharmacy technician for 8 years, and I am an assessment content developer here at PTCB.
Great. And how long have you been at PTCB, Christa?
I have been at PTCB for 3 years.
Okay, Rachel, what about you?
My name is Rachel. I worked as a pharmacy technician for about 8 or 9 years. And currently work as the senior assessment content developer. And I think I've been with PTCB for almost 6 years.
I want to talk about how you got into pharmacy and how you began your careers as pharmacy technicians. So if you could just give us a little bit of background about what led you there. Rachel, we'll start with you.
So the real thing is I needed a job and my boyfriend worked front end at Rite Aid, and I ended up in pharmacy because I transferred when I moved, and the only job they had available was in the pharmacy. But my dad was also a pharmacist, so it was sort of like a natural thing.
So then, Rachel, with your dad as a pharmacist, did you ever think that you would enter a career in pharmacy?
I did not think so, because he talked a lot about how it was difficult in a retail setting to sort of juggle all of the demands on his both like professional knowledge, but then also what management wanted and what insurance companies wanted. But it ended up really being helpful that was sort of in his background. So it was sort of in my family's lore, right? So it was just like familiar to me. And he actually helped me with the system. We worked for the same chain of pharmacies. The pharmacists were impressed that I knew how to do so many things. It was because I had called my dad.
So then talk to me a little bit about how you transitioned from working in a community pharmacy into your role at PTCB.
So I worked at the pharmacy at multiple different locations throughout working as a tech. Through all of that, I was also doing undergrad and then eventually grad school. So I think it was at the end of my first year of grad school, I stopped working in the pharmacy just because of the time demands of grad school. So my background, obviously in pharmacy, I didn't think would be relevant to what I would do with the rest of my career, which was in writing and rhetoric. And after I graduated, I was looking for a job, like nonprofit job aggregator on Twitter. And that day that I looked, the job that I ended up getting was the feature job on that aggregator. And I was like, this is a perfect combination of the things I know about, because it had to do with editing, but then also I had the background as a technician to sort of meld the two things together.
That's great. Christa then has a little bit of a different story. So tell us how you started as a pharmacy technician, the different jobs you worked as a pharmacy technician, and then how that brought you to PTCB.
Okay, so I got into pharmacy quite by accident. I was sent by a temp agency, like the summer between freshman and sophomore years of college. I was sent by a temp agency to a PBM, a pharmacy benefit manager. I didn't know anything about the pharmacy industry, but I met a lot of amazing pharmacists there, and I learned a lot of stuff about drugs. We did prior authorizations. And then eventually one of the pharmacists that I met working there went to work for a chain that was opening a store in my hometown. So I went to work there with him. And when I moved to New York to be an actor, which is my educational background is in theater, it didn't really make sense to get a day job like waiting tables or something because I already knew how to be a pharmacy technician. So I kept doing that in an independently owned retail store here in the city. And then eventually I started teaching a training course for pharmacy technicians in the Bronx. That's actually the pharmacy job that I had the longest, was teaching. While I was teaching, I started volunteering for PTCB as an item writer. That is how I met Rachel. So I knew her, at least via email, for a couple of years before I came to actually work for PTCB. And I got to be a part of those item writing drives online and sometimes at in-person events. And then one day when my current job was posted, it was something that I already had a little bit of experience doing, writing items. And of course I had the pharmacy technician background. So here I am.
Great. Since you have kind of more of a history with PTCB, Christa, what was your opinion about PTCB before you joined staff? And then is that any different than your opinion about PTCB now that you've been on staff for 3 years?
So I have always thought of PTCB as like a very fancy, prestigious place. Not that we're not, but so I did have experience volunteering, which is kind of nerve-wracking the first time you do it in person because you're with all of these people who are experts in the field. So I did have the advantage of kind of knowing coming into PTCB what it was going to be like because I had volunteered in that capacity. It always still surprises me that we're so tiny, like so few people work here, and yet we produce exams mostly that affect pharmacy technicians all over the country, which has always been very impressive to me.
So that's really cool that you worked as a volunteer before joining PTCB on staff. And I know both you, Christa and Rachel, work a lot with PTCB volunteers. And I was wondering if you had any advice for somebody who maybe wanted to volunteer with PTCB, how to get started or anything like that. What about you, Rachel?
Through the website, do the survey, and then we'll contact you if your background and your expertise matches with what we're looking for. And definitely, I think for first-time volunteers, typically what you'll be doing is item writing, but don't be afraid to reach out and talk to us. Like, we're very open, willing to help, whatever we can do to make the process more easy for you. And definitely there's some career path potentially from being a volunteer to being on staff. But just a good way of connecting with other people in pharmacy, networking, all of those things to sort of keep expanding your knowledge since things are, moving and evolving so quickly in pharmacy. It's a way to sort of keep caught up.
Okay, so Rachel, you just talked about item writing, and I was wondering if you could explain what that even means. I know before I started on staff at PTCB, I'd never heard the term item writing before.
So item writing is important for us because, as you know, we put out exams. So on the exam, there are, a number of questions that people need to answer, and all of these items, more or less, are written by volunteers. So item writing, basically, you go through training, which is online. You do it at your own pace to sort of see what the process is like, and then you develop content based on our content outline or the blueprint, which is also on the website. You'll be assigned some subdomains based on the expertise that you indicated, and you make the items, you write them, and submit them to our software, and then you end up reviewing some of your peers' items as well.
So basically an item is a question.
Yes. Yes.
in layman's
Much shorter
terms.
answer.
Yeah, no, no, that was really good. Thank you. And so then, Christa, do you have any favorite memories of being a volunteer, or any reason that you would recommend being a volunteer in particular? Just tell me a little bit more about your experience working with volunteers or volunteering.
Okay, so I am kind of a serial volunteer in my personal life anyway. My job here at PTCB is actually not the first one that I've ever had that came directly from being a volunteer. You know, if there is a field or a specific job that you're interested in that maybe you don't have a lot of experience in, or you don't have a direct pathway to, like, see if you can volunteer for that thing, and maybe get some of that experience and meet people. So undoubtedly, from my experience volunteering at PTCB, the best thing has been the people that I've met. Pharmacists and technicians from all over the country. The staff here at PTCB has always been wonderful. I would advise somebody who's interested in participating in that way as a volunteer at PTCB, like, don't be intimidated. If you have a little bit of experience, if you are certified yourself, like, fill out the survey on our website, send in your resume, because there are people doing this from so many different backgrounds and specific areas of expertise. You're going to meet some fantastic people and make awesome connections. So I can't say enough good things about volunteering in general. And we have these opportunities for you here at PTCB.
And as we launch more certificate programs, we're going to be looking for more volunteers with different areas too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that is a good segue into talking about these new certificates. And I was wondering if either of you had a particular favorite that you're interested in. Christa, you might be a little biased, but with our CSPT certification and our other certificates and upcoming certificates, are there any particular favorites that you're really excited by? I'll start with you again, Christa. What do you think?
Okay, so you are correct. I am biased in favor of our CSPT exam, which is for serial compounding, and I'm biased towards that one because that is the one that I primarily work on. That is what I was hired to do here. Being that the CSPT is something that I helped create, I am super excited about the upcoming CPHT Advanced certification, which you can read all about on our website. That is something that I definitely intend to go for as soon as it is available.
Cool. What about you, Rachel?
One certificate I think is really cool is a medication history, because what I've heard is that retail technicians do really well when taking medication histories because they've had the background of talking to patients. You know, they need to be really personable, but also have a lot of knowledge. They need to know things about medications. And I feel like that's something that I potentially could have been interested in doing when I was working as a technician.
So do you have any advice to somebody seeking to earn one of the new certificates or seeking to earn CPHT certification or CSPT certification for the first time?
If it is something that you are considering, I hope that you consider it seriously, and I hope that you try for one of those additional certifications. My advice would be to use the resources that we make available to you on our website, because we get a lot of people asking things like, what do I study? What's on the exam? What are you going to ask me? And while, of course, you are not going to find like a direct answer to that question on our website, we do make all sorts of resources available, including what we call a content outline or a blueprint, which is literally a list of all of the topics that are covered on the exam, as well as a percentage that allows you to estimate like about how much of the exam, about how many of the exam questions are going to be about each particular topic. So you can really use that as a study guide. You can use that content outline or blueprint to sort of evaluate your own knowledge, like how much of this am I familiar with and how much of it should I read up on or study up on before I take my exam. Because all of that stuff is on the website. It doesn't have to be mysterious.
What about you, Rachel? Any advice for someone seeking certification or a CPHT looking to earn one of our certificates?
So definitely for people who don't yet have the CPHT, some really good resources are our practice products. We have a practice test that is made to the same specifications as the real test, and that can help sort of get you used to the format of what the test looks like, because it basically mimics the same thing that the real test looks like. And there are also explanations so that you can see, you know, what knowledge you have already and explanations for items or questions that you might not already know. So it's sort of both helping you like make it less mysterious, but also adding new knowledge. And then we also have an app for calculation items. If you're intimidated at all by the math that you might see, that could definitely be something that can help bolster your confidence. And we offer a sort of guide of how easy or difficult former test takers found these items. So you can sort of see like where you rate compared to other test takers who've taken the exam in the past.
Yeah, these are all really great resources. So thanks for bringing those up. Well, I might switch it up to a little bit of a lighter note and kind of ask you all some rapid fire fun questions. I think I'll ask you a few questions to one person, and then we'll switch to the other person and see if their answers are similar, a little different. So a little bit like, you know, the Family Feud end of the game. Okay, Christa, you're up. All right.
Okay.
So, if PTCB were a car, what kind of car would it be?
So I don't have a car because I live in New York City. I don't know very much about cars. So I think that if PTCB were a vehicle, it would be a subway, because we all share a goal or a destination, and PTCB hopefully is helping to take a lot of people there.
That's a good answer. So what about, I know you're an animal lover, so if PTCB were an animal, what kind of animal would we be?
I think that if PTCB were an animal, we would be an ant. And I hope nobody is like grossed out by ants, but here's why. Because ants are massive team workers. And that is exactly the way that PTCB functions. Like nothing here is done solo. So we are a big team working organization, but we will not march into your kitchen and eat your snack.
Okay, so if you had to make up our newest certificate, a new credential for pharmacy technicians that can be as wacky and as crazy as you want, what would it be?
So my new credential would be identifying a drug product by scent. Because as any, especially retail pharmacy technician knows, like I haven't been in retail for many years, but I'm certain that I could still identify like the worst smelling and also the best smelling ones by scent. So that would be my exam.
That's really good. Yeah, I see technicians and I hear them talking a lot about how like they have differing opinions on the things that smell good and the medications that smell terrible, you know? So
yeah, a lot of people like Benacar. They think it smells like vanilla cake, but I think Benacar smells like yucky.
It doesn't smell good to you?
No.
That's the one that I was just thinking literally smells so good. No, it smells so good.
No,
and some of the
like
some of the prenatal vitamins.
Yeah. There's some minty ones.
That's really
Exciting
funny.
times.
Okay, two more. So what was your favorite snack while you were working as a pharmacy technician or a pharmacy technician educator?
At the first retail pharmacy that I worked in, we were big fans of the Olive Garden soup, salad, and breadstick menu. Like, one of us would go pick up the soup, salad, and breadsticks, which are not unlimited when you order them for takeout. But yeah, we were big Olive Garden fans.
Okay, and I'm interested to hear this one. So if you were not working at PTCB, what would you be doing? What would your job be? If this could be a dream job, what do you think it would be?
Yeah. So realistically, I would be teaching pharmacy technicians if I wasn't here. But if we're talking about like dream careers, I would be the host of a travel show where the main goal of the traveling would be to show off animals that come from those places. And hopefully I would get to hold the animals as the host of the show.
That sounds pretty perfect. Okay, Rachel, you're up. So if PTCB were a car, what kind of car would PTCB be?
I think probably an electric vehicle, right? Like economical, good at what it does, future facing, like thinking about the environment and like what's going on around us and all of those things, adjusting.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Okay, so if PTCB were an animal, what kind of animal would it be?
Probably, is it the pandas that are at the National Zoo?
I think there's a baby panda right now, right?
They just had a baby, yeah.
Yeah, so I think probably that, just because we're in DC, we're right there, you know, sort of in the heart of everything. But yeah, I think that's a cool thing that the DC Zoo is really known for. I think that's what I would associate with us.
Yeah, we could make Panda our mascot. I like that. Okay, so if you could make up a credential for pharmacy technicians, any sort of credential, what would it be?
I think it would definitely be like figuring out how to get the pharmacist to do what you want. Because sometimes you have to finagle a little bit, because, you know, if you work with fill-in pharmacists, they might not know your patients, they might not know your area or anything like that. They don't know the doctors. So using your knowledge, you might need to help them a little bit.
A little bit of trust building, a little manipulation. Okay.
A tiny bit, a small bit. Yes.
And so what was your favorite snack while you were working as a pharmacy technician in the pharmacy? I know you're still working as a pharmacy technician now, but.
So I don't remember anything specific food-wise, but I would always drink Mountain Dew, like these huge bottles of Diet Mountain Dew that often the pharmacist would in fact buy for me as a like thank you.
That's funny, you're not the first pharmacy tech to say Mountain Dew is their favorite snack.
Well, it's tiring. You need a lot of energy.
Yeah. Okay, and the final question, if you weren't working at PTCB, what job would you like to be doing?
So definitely I would be interested in working for a nonprofit. That's how I sort of tripped into this, looking for a nonprofit job. I also really am into the writing and editing, so something, you know, related to that. If I were any good at it, my dream career would definitely be author. But unfortunately, you need to be able to write things, long things, in order to do that. And I'm much better at editing other people's writing.
Great. Well, this was really fun, you guys. Thank you for joining me in this PTCB conversation. And I hope you all have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Healthy.